Hello everyone, it's Colin Larkin here from Christ the King in Topeka. Today is the Solemnity of Saints Peter and Paul. And so today I'm just going to be reflecting a little bit on these two great saints. Although they share the same feast day, they often are portrayed as quite different from each other, and rightfully so. And so I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the preface that was said in Mass today. So the preface goes like this. It is truly right and just, our duty in salvation, always and everywhere to give you thanks, Lord, Holy Father, Almighty and Eternal God. For by your providence, the blessed apostles Peter and Paul bring us joy. Peter, foremost in confessing the faith, Paul, its outstanding preacher. Peter, who established the early church from the remnant of Israel, Paul, master and teacher of the Gentiles that you call. And so each in a different way gathered together the one family of Christ, and revered together throughout the world, they share one martyr's crown. So I think that there's a lot to the words of this preface, and so that's basically the main point I want to make today. As the preface stated, these two great saints were united in the one mission of Christ, but practically speaking, that mission looked very different for both of them. They came from very different backgrounds. Peter was just a humble fisherman who the first time he met the Lord exclaimed that he was a sinful man. He did not hold himself in any high esteem. Saul was a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee, an incredibly well-educated and erudite man. Peter is super rash, cuts off the ear of the high priest's slave. You always see him doing all kinds of just, kind of crazy things, jumps into the water when he sees the resurrected Christ. He's very just kind of spontaneous and at times rash. But Paul, you see him being a little bit more methodical. After he gets converted, gets knocked off of his horse, he goes and spends 3 years in prayer before he presents himself to Peter to join in the mission of Christ. And so today, I briefly just want to make the point that we all have a really specific and important mission within the church, and that we're all asked to play our unique role. Paul was not asked to be Peter. Peter was not asked to be Paul. And we can see that even though their missions differed wildly, they were ministering to different peoples, they had different roles within the church, they shared the same feast day because they shared the same mission of Christ. We also see how these men were not perfect either. Peter is the one who betrays our Lord 3 times. Saul was the one who, before his conversion, was trying to destroy the very faith that he later on preached. The Lord does not need perfect people in order to do his work, but rather he calls us as we are and invites us into a relationship with him, brings us close to himself, smooths out our rough edges, and then sends us on mission to proclaim the good news that we are all invited to be a member of the family of Christ. These two even fought, as brothers often do. We hear a passage where Paul is recalling how he went to Peter and openly disagreed with him, called him out about the way he was acting differently between Jews and Gentiles. And while this might be a little bit scandalous and makes it kind of funny that they share the same feast day even though they have this famous fight, it points out a good reality that they were able to correct each other. Peter was humble enough to accept the correction. Paul was bold enough, but yet gentle enough to do it in a way that was helpful for both of them. And so this day, brothers and sisters, I really just encourage you to kind of reflect more on what is your particular mission in the world. Some of us are called to the ministerial priesthood. That's a certain kind of mission. Some people are called to be great missionaries throughout the world to go and serve the peoples across seas. That's a great mission. Some of us are called to be parents. That's a great mission. Some are called to be nurses, doctors, teachers, librarians. These are all incredible missions from Christ because you each are put in very specific circumstances with very specific people. And it is up to us to bring the good news of Jesus Christ into these everyday circumstances. We don't always need to go out and do these incredible missions or run through these great programs. Those are helpful and those are good. But at the end of the day, the Lord asks us just to be who we are and to love him and to proclaim that love to others.